Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, this is an episode that I wanted to do for a while now, right? And I think it's time that we get this episode done. So, in today's episode, what we want to do is, or what I'm going to try and teach you guys is my knowledge, the information that I have, the knowledge that I have of how to identify a 325 IS, right? So, there's certain areas that we're going to look at. There's certain things to look for, certain VIN numbers to look for, and I'm going to try and share as much knowledge as possible because I think this whole thing transpired of an incident that happened about 2 weeks ago. So I went to a buddy of mine's and I drove in there and I saw it was almost like a Calypso, a Burgundy or Calypso. I don't know if it was Calypso exactly. Well, it was supposed to look Calypso. Burgundy Calypso, two-door with an IS kit on it. But from a distance, you could see that something was not right on this vehicle. But the kit was on, it had the kit on. It had a wheel on it, didn't have the Style 5 IS wheel. But it had a BBS wheel on it. It looked like a pretty car from far. But you know, we can identify these pretty cars from far, a mile away, right? We work with these cars every day, so we know already what to look for, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. So anyway, the car was at Zen's garage, and Shane came out to me, and Shane didn't look at the car properly, but he just said, Sanjay, okay, here's a customer, Sanjay does the wiring, and he'll supply the parts, etc., whatever it is, however we work. And this customer came out proudly. He says, no, I just bought the car last week. And I looked at him, and I didn't want to say anything. But anyway, so I went through the car, and I looked at it, and he says, no, we've got to do everything. We've got to do this, we've got to do that, do that. And as he's telling me all the stuff he's got to do, right, and I'm looking from the front to the back of the vehicle, and I'm looking at the parts, never mind labor, never, don't even talk about labor, but just the parts that he needed for the car. And you just see the bills going up and up and up and up. And I listened to this guy and I said, okay, how do you know, did you buy this guy's an IS? He says, yes, I paid 275,000 last week. And I'm like, okay. So I inspected the car properly. I started going through the vehicle before I even got to the VIN number. It was a chrome bumper body turned into a plastic bumper. So the tail housing of the car, they changed over to the plastic bumper, right? The kit on there was I think it was half ABS, half fiberglass. I couldn't remember exactly, but not an original kit on it. Then I went to the VIN number, and the VIN number was totally something else. So my point is this here, is that that's a customer that doesn't have much knowledge. He has knowledge of, yes, I want a 325 IS, but he doesn't have the knowledge of how do you look for, when you're going to buy an IS, what do you look for, what do you need to see, what does the car need to have on it to be an IS? That's number one. Number two, I put up a video last week of, it was an update of the one red IS that we are busy restoring, and the car is in body. So we done a mock-up kit of the suspension on it and of the kit on the car. And I have got, between TikTok and Facebook, I've got a lot of comments saying, this is another wannabe build-up IS, because I didn't use the 5-hole suspension as the mock-up. I used our test 4-hole suspension, which is, the dimensions are exactly the same as a 5-hole. Obviously, they're not 5 holes to hold the wheel, but it's the same dimensions, the same look and feel back and forth. So we just wanted to get the car on suspension, get it on the ground, get the car level, basically. Obviously, there's no motor in there, so your front end is sitting high already. But go as far as possible to that, get the bumpers on the kit on, get the windscreens on, and line the car up in that sense. And everybody started bombarding me on Facebook. So I actually took a photo of the car suspension, which I'm going to show you guys now, which has been powder coated but not assembled. And I said, here's the 5-hole suspension. And people one guy even commented on there and said, yeah, the guys take hubs and they take 4-hole hubs on, and they take 5-hole hubs and put that on the suspension. And I'm like, guys, really? Yes, I agree with people that South Africa had 1,500 ISs, 1,550 ISs made for South Africa. I think that was a number. And we probably got 2,500 ISs. I agree to you. But guys, we don't do that. Right? We've got original cars here. And if we are building a replica, if there is a replica or not a pedigree vehicle in here, I make it known. It's how it is. There's nothing to lie. The whole part of this episodes that I do and information that I give you guys is basically for the vehicle itself. We're not trying to brag and say we're only building ISs. We've got another car coming in next week that's not an IS. We had a red car that was not a replica. You can call it a replica, that's dressed up as an IS. But guess what? Those cars that were dressed up as an IS, they actually drive better and they got more features than some of the original cars that we're finding. So guys, let's go through this here, right? And sorry, I know it's a Sunday, it's hot. I got my slippers on. My daughter's laughing at me here. But we are sweating in here already. So let's go through what an IS should have. So firstly, let's start off by this here, right? You get a shadow line, but shadow lines came in the pre-facelift in the chrome bumpers first, right? Then they moved over to the facelifts, the plastic bumpers, and I think that was the 89s in the plastic bumpers. So 87 to 88, and I stand corrected. I don't know everything. I'm telling you what I know, and whoever knows more, you're welcome to leave a comment and let's add from there so we can all learn from it, right? So pre-facelift I think was 87 to 88 or early 89. That is now your chrome bumper shadow lines. I stand corrected. Then your facelift, your plastic bumper shadow lines started in 89 to 90, and then your Evo 1s were 90 to 91, and then your Evo 2s were 91s, I think, right? So bottom line is you got a shadow line. How do you identify a shadow line? The black car here we got with a kit on and about 5-volt suspension, that's a shadow line, and I've stated it in the previous videos as well. So yes, it's got 5-volt suspension. It's the customer wants it dressed up like an IS. It is not actually wrong, because the shadow lines came with 4-volt suspension. That's the differences between them. The 2.5, they still came with 2.5 motors in there. 4 2.5s, and the VIN numbers on them were, they started with 0086. So in the chrome bumper version and in the plastic bumper version, your shadow lines VIN number starts with a 0086 on there, right? Then we move over to your Evo 1s. Your Evo 1s, the quickest way to identify them is by a VIN number, but the part is coming now afterwards. Your VIN number starts with OAF, right? But I personally owned a car that was a 325i/2A. It was an automatic 325i 2-door plastic bumper with a sunroof. 325 motor, but these guys had converted it, so I didn't know much about the ISs back then. But anyway, nonetheless, I bought it as a shadow line. Until I found later, it wasn't a shadow line, it was an automatic. But it came out of the OAF one. So again, guys, you know the OAF one, there is another way of checking with regards to the OAF and then the numbers afterwards, right? I'm not too sure on that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're buying an OAF car that it is an IS, number one. But a lot of the other ISs running out there and from the factory are OAF vans. Then you come to your Evo 2s. Your Evo 2s are OEJ vans, right? So Evo 1 OAF, Evo 2 OEJ. And then you've got the OEJ, which is a normal Evo 2s, and then from what I know, and we've got one car here, we've actually got 2 Evo 2s here. One is just normal OEJ, and then your tag will start with BMW 325/2S, right? Then you've got another OEJ car, which is an Evo 2 OEJ, but it's called an HP2 car. That car, my knowledge is that's the same setup and the same drivetrain and setup as the Alpina B3. So that's the 2.7 drivetrain. That's the 155 kilowatt version of it. Again, guys, I'm going to repeat myself here, please, and don't shoot me down. None of us have all the knowledge on BMWs. I work on these cars daily, and if I tell you that I learn daily on these cars, it's how it is. So a guy that has owned one car from 20 years ago does not know everything. A guy that reads a book on these vehicles that does not know everything. You can speak to the guys at BM that have been in production on these vehicles. They don't know everything. Uncle Sean and them, they're the go-to guys to give you the advice as far as possible. Right? But again, it's 20, 30 years ago. They also can't remember exactly what was done. So I'm not saying that they're wrong or they're bad. They know they are the go-to guys. But no one can tell you A to Z on your cars from your 80s, your early 80s, or even your 70s up till now. Not up till now, up till about 94, 95. About 93, 94. Because there is no records of them. So your record started from your E36s, your E34s. They started then populating the database for you. So my knowledge as far as it goes, your shadow lines are 0086 funds, they're 3 to 5 eyes, they all came with full suspension. I'm not too sure on the interior on what they came with. Then you get your Evo ones that we start off quickly with your VIN number, right? Okay, I'm not going to show you the VINs on the guys, because these are customers, guys, and I don't want to, I will pick up issues later on by disclosing certain things. So I'm going to tell you what the VINs start with. Your OAF, this is an Evo 1. The red car that I'm going to point out to you now, that's an Evo 2. The white one we got standing there, that's an Evo 2. The black car we got standing here, that's a shadow line. It's a 0086 shadow line. So the OAF one came with 5-volt suspension, right? Front and rear. The ABS, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was optional or if it was a feature on the vehicles. Then I believe that sunroof was an option, as well as the Uber Cargo back then was an option. The ISs do not come with rear headrest. However, the 333s and I think the shadow lines in the chrome bumpers came with headrest. Then obviously your chrome bumper shadow lines and your pre-face shadow lines and your facelift shadow lines, your radiators, there's differences in there and stuff like that. So easiest way to identify them, right, is your 5-volt suspension. I'm going to show you that now on how to identify it. Because a lot of the guys are putting Z3 rear suspensions on that look identical, but the offsets are totally wrong. So if you deal with it every day, you'll be able to see on the floor that the offset is wrong as to going to measure up. Now you get an average Joe. I know there was one suspension up for sale the other day, and one of our customers phoned me and said, Sanjay, is that IS or is it Z3? And for me, I'm telling you, I told him it looks Z3, but I couldn't remember exactly because it's still hard to distinguish. When I came back to the shop the next morning and I saw the discs, you could see immediately Z3. Z3, your wheels set further out. So first thing to look for is your 5-volt suspension. The second thing to look for is your VIN number. That's the first giveaways on there. Then there's a few smaller items like your onboard computers. That's gonna be the 3 to 5, the basic 3 to 5 standard on there. Your clusters are not videos on the ISs, they should be Motronic. That's my knowledge. I've worked on a lot of these, and most of them I've seen is Motronic clusters on them. I've never seen an IS with a video cluster. So again, I can be wrong, but that's from my knowledge on here. Then with regards to your blocks, the blocks on these cars should say 2.5. There's no 2.7 block. I've never seen a block that says a block from an E30, M20 E30 that has a stamping of saying 2.7 over on top of the engine number. I've always seen 3 to 5 on there, right? The only 2.7 block that I know of came from the E28 5 to 5Es. So it's a 1mm longer block, but it's not the correct block for these cars. So this is still very controversial because everybody has their own view and an opinion on it. Where they're saying that they're using a 2.5 block, so it's a 2.5 liter block with the 2.7 internals in there. Right, I'm still getting to that. So for now in the Evo ones we're running with the 2.5 blocks and the 2.7 internals. There is no 2.7 blocks. If a car has a 2.7 block, I guarantee you it's probably come from the 5 to 5E. But then again, that's my knowledge on it, right? So 5-volt suspension, OAF fun is what you're going to look for. Your VIN number is what you're going to look for. Your onboard computer is what you're going to look for. How do you? That's on the on the Evo 1, on the OAFs. On the Evo 2s, you're going to look for similar items. So you're going to look for your 5-volt suspension. You're going to look for your OBD. You're going to look for your VIN number, your OEJ VIN number. And then from OEJ, then you look further into the car, and if you come to the tag and you see there, before reading the VIN out, and you look at the tag and it says a HP2 car, that's now the special edition vehicle of them. And I think only 15 were made of them. Then with your suspensions between the Evo 1 and the Evo 2, your Evo 1s are the ones that came with steel control arms, front control arms, and the Evo 2s came with aluminium control arms. So if you go at the bottom and you look at them quickly, that's the quick differences that you pick up on them. The Evo 2s also came out with a lip underneath the front spoiler, and that's called the Venturi lip. A lot of the guys put it on the Evo 1s because it does look nice. But if you run the Venturi lip on them, you won't be able to run the steel sun guards on them. So Evo 1 should not have a Venturi lip, it should have a steel sun guard on them. Evo 1 should also have a plastic airbox, if I'm not mistaken. a plastic airbox, and the metal airbox should be for the Evo 2. I've got it wrong on here, so that I've learned now recently. I've got the metal airbox on the Evo 1, and where I should be running the plastic airbox. But that again is also controversial, so I'm following certain guidelines. Then you've got your stabilizer links on the Evo 1s and 2s. Your Evo 1 should run a short stabilizer link from your control arm through to your stabilizer bar, whereas the Evo 2s run the long stabilizer links from your strut, your shock strut or your shock tower, all the way to the stabilizer bar. That's another way just to distinguish. But again, these guys have been chopped and changed around like you can't believe. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if it's got the suspension that it matches this VIN number. You've got to start by the VIN number first, and once you distinguish, okay, it's Evo 2, then from there you can go to the suspension and see, okay, fine, has it got A, B, C, D? And the same thing with Evo 1. Evo 1, as far as I understand, Evo 1 came out with aluminium, and not all of them, but most of them came out with aluminium fenders, bonnet, and doors, right? Evo 2 did not come out with any aluminium. So they've compensated, as far as my knowledge goes, they've tried to compensate on the 2.7 setup or on the extra kilowatts, because at that point it was a bit cheaper to make more power than to reproduce the aluminium. That's what one of the rumors are. I'm gonna call it a rumor. One of the rumors are. So when it was the Evo 1s, they came out with a lighter front. It was a little bit less on the cages, and they had the 2.5 setup in there. Then to compensate for the lighter fenders, they put steel fenders back onto the Evo 2s, and they upgraded on the engine side. Then you got your DUFs. But the DUFs is a bit hard, right? Because you can't physically see the ratios on the DUF. So if you have got to work out your ratios on your DUF, your Evo 1 should be a 391 ratio, and your Evo 2 should be a 373 ratio. So your gearboxes, if I'm not mistaken, are the same, but the DUFs are different, right? The disc size across both Evo 1 and Evo 2 are the same. They both share with the E30 M3. So the front and rear discs are the same. Your front and rear suspension are actually from the E30 M3s. And I think that's about it on basically distinguishing between the two. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through to the suspension. I just want to show you guys how the hubs actually look like, your rear hubs, what to look for on your front struts and your struts and shock towers. And Uncle Sean from TuneTech, he actually brought us up a while back, and he actually showed the car on the left with the 4 bolts at the bottom. That's the easiest way of determining your suspension, because you cannot copy that. There was no other cars that came from it. They came with that besides for the E30 M3 and the 325 IS. Your 333 is totally different. Your 333, that's another ball game by itself. So a lot of the guys have got information on 333s, and I guarantee you there's probably 10 people in South Africa that I know that have a lot of information. They don't have all the information, they've got a lot of information on it, but not everybody knows everything on these cars. So you can, like I'm saying to you again, you can tell me you've built 10, you've built 20, we've built a lot. We've got a lot of inventory in our stock currently, and I still can't tell you everything on these vehicles. So guys, I hope this episode helps you. Let's just recap this here again quickly. When you're going to buy a car and you see a two-door with a kit on and a style 5-wheel, and it's got Ricardo seats, it's sports seats. On the inside, it's got an MTEC 1 steering. Do not get happy, because there are cars that are built up nowadays. Go and do the basic checks. Go straight to the VIN number. Distinguish 0086, OAF, or OEJ. If you see one of the three, again, if it's a 0086, you should have 4-wheel suspension on there. If it's put a kit on, if the person has put a kit on, it's probably his intention to want the car to look like an IS, or that's what they done before. It doesn't mean it's an IS. If you look at OAF, from OAF you go back to the tag and you look for 325 IS/2. Okay, fine, the two of them are matching. Then you now start digging deeper. You go to your suspension, you have that checked out. Make sure it's 5-wheel in the front. Make sure it's 5-wheel at the back with no adapters. Guys also like to use adapters. Then you can go through the basic checks of the car again. If you start looking for the airbox and stuff like that, that's basically going deeper. A lot of the cars you find out don't even have an airbox on it. If you find OEJ, again, go back to the tag, just confirm it's OEJ on there, 325 I/2S. Check your suspension, check your aluminium control arms on there, check your stabilizer links on there. DUFs you cannot see from the outside if it's a slip DUF or what ratio it is, unfortunately. You can obviously, when you go to Evo 1, check for panels and see if you strike lucky and you are able to find aluminium. Then if you got a OEJ and you go to the tag and you see it says 325i/2s and you got HP2 on the side, grab the car as fast as possible. Okay, so that's for the OEJs. Then your pre-facelift shadowlines, which is your chrome bumper shadowlines, should have a flat backboard on, right? So it should be the same as the 323s, the 333s, and so on like that. If they're a little bit in the later models, they should come with high backboard. Your facelift shadowlines should have high backboards, and the same as the Evo 1. Your Evo 2's backboard is totally different, as well as your tool case cover. Those, I'll show you the two differences shortly. So those are the easy things just to look out for when you're buying pedigree vehicles, when you are buying cars that are clean. Unfortunately, when you're finding barn finds and you're finding cars that have been run through the mill, most of those are going to be out. You're going to find backboards with 6x9s in there. They put a flat plywood board in there or chipboard in there and cut out 6x9 holes, etc., etc. But if you see your two doors, if you see a 325IS without a sunroof, they have come out without sunroofs. So the blue one that we done, I know that a buddy of mine has got one in Lenasia as well, and he's got a red one. As for colors, the standard color should be there. There's also a question about a henna red IS. I've never seen one, but I've heard that it does exist. I'm not too sure on that. So I know on your Evo 2s you'll have your Calypsos there, you'll have your blues, you'll have your Glacier blues, your Calypso, I can't remember what the dark blue one's name is. You got your Glacier blue on there, you got white, you got red, you got silver as well on them. And I think the black was there. Then your Evo ones were your a lot of silvers, your reds, your whites, your blacks, and there's a blue there's also the dark blue in the Evo one as well. But that's as far as we can get to. So again, guys, as I get more knowledge, I think we'll do another follow-up episode maybe in a couple of months time. As I get more knowledge, I will update this video here again and we'll go through the list of it. But please just be careful when buying these cars. Let me just show you quickly with regards to the suspensions, what to look out for, with the backboards, what to look for, and then let's take it from there. Okay guys, so this is the suspensions that we had powder coated, right? And that we're basically building for them. So I've got the 333 suspension on here, which is the same as or the rear suspension, which is the same as your 325s, your 323s, etc. like that. And it'll be the same as the shadow lines. Obviously, with regards to ABS and non-ABS, that's another story. So, replying to the customer that told me, not customer, sorry, it's not my customer. Replying to the guy who told me that we change 5-hole hubs we take the 4-hole hubs out and we put 5-hole hubs in. Okay, do your research before you comment. This is a 4-hole hub. This is a 5-hole hub. Your diameters of your bearing is not the same. It looks the same as here. This diameter here is a little bit thicker on the bearing, and then your diameter where the bearing fits into here is totally different to your rear suspension. So it is not possible to do that. It is possible to do it, but you've got to have bearings made up and you've got to have it shimmed correctly and know what you're doing. But if you think that you're just going to take another bearing, a 5-hole bearing, and slip it over here and take a hub and put it over, it's not going to work. Another thing is, you cannot buy the hubs new. The hubs are not for sale new. So this is on the hubs, right? While we're on the hubs here quickly, if you look at the Z3 hubs, you'll actually see the offset difference in the hub coming further up here. So the hub is actually this much longer, and you'll see the cone extruding more on the Z3 hubs. Then if you look at your suspensions, this is a normal shadow line suspension. This here, your shadow line will have a normal suspension like this here. You should have okay, this car doesn't have ABS here, but you should have an ABS hole for each here. As to the 325IS and the M3 suspensions, which will have, these are the 4 balls that you look for. And it's got some sort, I can't remember exactly what it's got to do with, why we need that. And you've got your ABS guide selector there. Not your guide selector, it's your ABS hole. That's there. Let's move over quickly. Let me just show you the backboards. So on the backboards, I'm gonna give you a view from outside the car, right? This here is the Shadowline facelift and the 325 IS backboards. So you'll actually see that your seat belt has got a housing, it's got a hump on here to accommodate for your seat belt, your seat belt catch or release. That should be in there, right? Then if I open the boot here, your tool case should have the wide tool case in there, and you should have a flat leather finish on the tool case cover. This is the Evo 2. You can see they've cut out 6x9s here, right? But it's got the wrong. No, it's got the wrong. It's got the correct backboard on here. Yeah. Wait, I think if there's anybody that knows more, please comment and show us the correct picture. But I think this is the correct backboard, because the ones that's available from BM now is for the European and the overseas vehicles. So this is the correct parcel shelf for the Evo 2s. But your tool tray cover is different, and you've got your pins here that extrude from them. They're visible from the outside, but your tool tray cover should look like that. So this is the Evo 2, and you'll see, for those that might say that I've built it up, I'm just going to try and, that's your VIN number, OEJ. And on the tag, you'll see the tag there will be an upside down tag. Let me walk around. Let me go this way for you quickly. It'll be an upside down tag, and then on the tag, you'll see 325i/2s, and you'll see an HP sign. And you can see again on the Evo 2, you've got the plastic airbox, whereas I've got it on the Evo 1, I've got the metal one, and that's the assumption that I have, that is correct. So again, that's why I say these things are controversial. People will tell you what they know, what they've learned. Also, another thing quickly is, you see these pipes running from these green, they're supposed to be green and white pipes running all the way. Those are your headlight adjuster pipes, right? So you're from your shadow lines, and even some of your plastic bumper 4-door 325i's will come with that. So that you can't even look at those to see if it is, to help you identify it, but they should be there. Okay, guys, so that is the wrap on this episode here. I hope that you find some knowledge in it, some information on it. Again, I'm going to repeat myself here. I do not know everything. I might miss on some points. Whoever does know better, not better, whoever does know or have more knowledge, please come forward, add on to the list. Let's learn together about these cars here, because it's senseless holding the knowledge in and no one knows what to do with the knowledge, right? Or we're not sharing it, and the next person battles with it, and he makes a mistake and he buys a car thinking it's a 325is, and he finds out later after spending a lot of money that it's not, because that is the reality of what is happening today. Guys, again, appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, share. You guys know what to do. And again, I hope you enjoy this episode. Cheers, guys.